You are the author of life, just one word, and I am free.
I was raised in Christian home and everything, and I was just really distracted, I guess. I prayed that God would take those distractions away. I got asked to go to a missions trip in Missouri, and we went to the International House of Prayer, and I got prophesied that I was going to be in the mission field. So I was like, no way, like, this is totally what I want to do. I just didn't know it's what I wanted to do. Okay, I'll do that. I'll commit to that. I want to be a missionary. Came home, and then randomly my dad was like, hey, I got an opportunity to go to Peru. Do you want to go to Peru with me? So I was like, oh, this is cool. Everything aligned at once. So we were in Peru, and I found out my calling, and that was to the Highland villagers through a bunch of different ways, and then like confirmation. And like I still remember the feeling of knowing like for the rest of my life I want to reach people in the Highland villages, and it's really cool to know like that's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. That's what I'm called to. I can just be excited about it and just like follow God's plan. Came home, signed up for a YWAM, went to YWAM. There, God further developed me, not only like physically ready for it, mentally prepare myself, but also spiritually. And I really got to see the needs for the people and really experience like firsthand what these villagers go through, and like firsthand like their everyday life struggles and like the oppression they have and stuff. And then also what it looks like for God to affect these people. At that point I was like, all right, I cannot further like want this. I cannot physically want this any more than I do.
This is a song for my friend.
I've known him since I was in 9th grade, and the first things he ever said to me were, do you want to go to the beach? I was like, when? Tomorrow. Like, this guy's going to bring so much adventure in my life. At a young age, I fell into like the typical like party scene. I was still trying to be a part of church because I had plenty of friends that were in the church. I was falling so deep, I was just like, I need to pull myself out. Throughout those years, like I planned on becoming a personal trainer. Like I was been like so about fitness for years and years. I felt like God wanted me to go out and do the missions work, and like I constantly was praying about it. And it wasn't until Coree mentioned this trip that I realized that my love for athleticism and God was coming together.
You're the one who saved.
While over there, I worked with an organization called 514, and they do similar to what we're going to do, a little bit different, but like they have a great model, like one of the best I've ever seen, so we just use that to kind of like structure what we're doing. I'll hand it to Tannen now, and he'll talk to you about kind of like more of the vision of what we're going to do, and then like the first location that we'll be going to.
Where we'll be going, sweatshop factories, sex slavery, and drug addiction is like a problem of these countries. So what we're doing is we're going in there, meeting with the churches, the YWAM bases, and current missionaries that are presiding in there to figure out what we could do while in that time period we're staying in those countries to prevent or slow down or stop completely whatever is happening in that village. The reason we have to trek through so much is because there is no real trail to get to where we're going. It's one of like the hardest places to get to, and not many people are willing to blaze that trail. So what Corey and I are going to be doing is we're going to be blazing the very first trail to all these villages and creating a circuit so that future missionaries get to these villages, and we're going to be documenting everything about the village behavior. It's like our stay for future missionaries who want to go in there. That way they're not going in blindly.
Constantly create.
The very first country we're going to is Bolivia. At least 14 days there in Bolivia until we travel out to Peru.
Into something.
We're landing in Cusco, Peru. And when we get there, we'll be working with a guy that we previously met on our last trip to Peru. He owns a coffee shop. It's a Christian organization coffee shop, so it's like run by Christians. And every penny of profit actually goes back into the community to Cusco. So that'll kind of be like our base for first arriving there. We'll also be staying in a hostel they have there, figuring out what it's like to run a business while being a missionary. And so that's kind of like what eventually I'd like to do as well. Like, those 2 weeks we're going to meet with all the organizations, so all the YWAMs, churches. We're even going to be meeting with some humanitarian organizations who are just interested in what we have to say. And we're going to be kind of talking to them, figuring out the needs of Peru. Also, while we're there, we'll be organizing a multi-week trek, which will start outside of Cusco. So we're probably going to be dropped off at the foot of the Andes, and then with a guide and a translator, they'll be taking us through these villages that a lot of them white people have never even been to. So we're kind of like at the front of all that. With this first trek, if we find, for instance, if we open a 20-day circuit, so let's say we go down to Cusco and we figure out, all right, this is where we're called to be. Let's open this circuit. So we'll start. We could even use maybe the hostel. Like there's so many opportunity for this trip. It's like unreal. So let's say we just start and we use their hostel and their coffee shop as a base for missionaries and YWAM teams to come in, and we can actually guide them and send them through those those villages that we'll be staying at. So they'll be staying in the villages. So it's just going to constantly send revenue and love into these villages. We're thinking we're going to be there 3 to 5 weeks. I don't know, it kind of depends. So that's kind of open. We left a 2-week open for just whatever wants to happen. After that, we'll be stopping the last location. It's actually a trek around Mount. It starts with an A, and it's a Spanish word that I cannot pronounce. And we'll be landing on the other side in Santiago, Chile, and we'll be going there, and we'll be studying that area and that location, because if we were to choose to do a circuit around this mountain, we'll be choosing either Mendoza, Argentina, or San Diego, Chile as the base where we built the hostel. So when all these missionaries say, like, let's say the one I went to, like if I were on outreach, all YWAMs do outreach, I would go and I'd stay in this hostel. From that hostel, that hostel would organize a trip for me to go around the mountain and do homestays around the mountain. We'll be in Santiago for a little bit because we're just trying to do the base. Then we'll head over to Mendoza, and we'll also do the same thing, meet with YWAMs, meet with all the churches. The whole time we're kind of like, I feel like we're like undercover mission, like spies, and we got to figure out where the sweatshops are, and we got to like take them down. But not with guns, with love. We're more on the prevention side of it. So our goal, I mean, sure, if God gives us a way to stop the sweatshop and take it down, like we want to do that. Like for sure, we're open to that. But what we'll be doing is we'll be bringing revenue into the villages through the treks, so that they won't have to they won't be forced to sell their kids into slavery of any sort. So
they'll look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah. The goal is that in one of these locations, like, no, this is the goal, and this will happen, not even hopefully, because we're both definitely called to do this trip. So it'll be that we find a place where we can open and start a circuit just to constantly send missionaries through villages. Hopefully by that, if we can cover a circle by missionaries, it'll kind of implode on itself, like save everyone inside of the circle and then explode and just like start something really cool.
They have an idea of what they want to do, but they're also going with this whiteboard in their head. And they're going down here not saying, I'm coming with a plan about how I'm going to reach you or who I'm even going to reach. He knows that God has called him to the remote villages, and he's seen it firsthand. There's severe oppression. When we were in Peru, they said there's over 2,000 remote villages just outside of Cusco in those mountains at above 13,000 feet. And they're living with no electricity, no vehicles, in mud houses with grass roofs. And it's shocking how, you think everywhere in the world has got internet and cell phones. But believe it or not, there are places where people still walk the streets naked. And I don't think you guys are going anywhere like that, but who knows?
And if we sound a little bit confused, it's because I'm a bad public speaker, and I think me too talked about this. We have it a little bit together, we're trying, but I read in the book, and it was something that really stuck out to us, and it said it's okay to be lost in the right direction. So
wow.
So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're lost in the right direction.
Yep.
So we're having fun with it. The backpack's probably going to be 30 to 50 pounds. If we do any mountaineering, it can be up to 100 if we don't hire porters. And porters are people like Sherpas. This backpack will probably be 30 to 50. I'm not saying I'm fully prepared for it, but me and Tannen have been training like crazy. So anywhere from like decently hot, like to short sleeve weather, to anything like significantly below negative. So it could be, I know in Nepal we were in really, really cold conditions, and it's to the point to where you would fill one of these up with water, and in 15 minutes it would be frozen solid. Because I know because things freeze quicker up there too. So it's it'll get pretty cold at high altitudes. We'll be going to 20,000 feet. The reason I didn't get a straight base camp for like mountaineering tent is because we're going to be in cold and warmer temperature as well. So this is like, if you read it, most stuff, this is like the most recommended tent. These bags are down to -12. When we're going to the mountain, the first mountain we'll go to will be probably the temperatures a little lower than that. So we'll be borrowing, they have a free that we can for free borrow their tent, their sleeping bags. The reason we didn't get some that go on that low because they're not good up high. So these tents are dried down, these sleeping bags are dried down. We have the same one. So they can get wet without losing their warmth. These gloves, they're like a glove within a glove within a glove, so like we can show it's like gloveception.
Nice. Like they're all
I know at all times I'll have 4.5 liters on me. Tannen will have 3. We can split the last liter and a half.
Yeah.
Unless I need it more.
Corey, you've lived on Cliff Bars for a long time.
I lived on Cliff Bars for 2 weeks one time. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't hungry at all. So an article was written on this guy who trekked some huge, I don't even remember where it was at, living off just Snickers. And they're like the perfect snack.
Can you imagine how happy he was?
Yeah, so I mean maybe Tannen can add a healthy Snickers in his diet sometimes.
protein Snickers.
But good. But there's also like dry food options and stuff like that. A lot of dry food options. Thankfully in those countries they have like rice and beans and stuff like that that we can carry and take up there with us.
He's such a powerful leader, one of the greatest leaders. Levi, and you led on the lead team with him for a while. He is a brilliant leader. When Corey would speak in the room, you'd be like, wow, man, there are ideas coming into this atmosphere right now. And he's the kind of guy that can take a lot of information, and under pressure, he's the kind of guy that can just be like, here's the course, let's take this course, boom, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to take the right course. So he's a real good, he has a gift of navigation. Both of them have tremendous gifting. One thing I'd say about Tannen, from just the second we met Tannen, came into our lives, he is all heart. And I know those of you from our church, you guys know Tannen. He's got such a big heart, and he's a very, very humble person. And we had missionaries from YWAM here several years ago, and Tannen went up front. I have a vision of him standing in the exact spot where he's like, I want to do missions, you know. And then I watched him many times saying, I'm going to get into physical training and all this. And when you look at all this coming together, it's so great. And Emily and I pray that God would send somebody with Corey. We know how dangerous this is. I mean, I don't want to scare anyone in the room, but I mean, obviously, if you're going to go and preach a system of freedom in a nation, in a region that is reigning in oppression, there are dangers. There's geographical dangers, you know, the elements, the mountains, the conditions, sickness. I'm not telling you this to scare you, but I'm saying the people in this room and those who are going to be watching this video and listening to this audio, more than anything, these guys truly need genuine partnership, people who will pray for them every day. Because Corey said it at the beginning of this thing, I thought it was great. It's easy for us to forget them when we're here because we've got all these other relationships. But they're 2 guys that are going to be sleeping. I mean, I don't know where the tent is. They set it up in here the other night. Think of them in a mountain in the middle of nowhere where they don't speak the language. I know in Bolivia, in Argentina, and even some in Peru as well, you preach freedom and hope to people who are told you're not allowed to have hope in a culture that doesn't permit them hope. There's dangers in that. But I will say that I believe this trip is called of God. I can say for my son, I know that God has spoken to him. He's confirmed it over and over, and God is sending him. And I know, again, as I said, for Tannen, the same. Pray for their safety. Pray for their health. You hear it all the time, missionaries getting sick.
Like, if we're not fearful and we have we trust in God to keep us safe, then we don't expect you guys to be fearful. God called us to do this, so he's not going to be taking us away on this trip.
You deserve it all. You deserve it.
We're actually going to blaze a trail for other people to get to these villages where hundreds and hundreds of missionaries are going to be able to come in and do humanitarian work and spiritual work. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Pray that they will have tremendous fruitfulness. They're going to be, I know these guys are going to be praying every day, God, give us an opportunity right now. And they're going to be looking for the opportunity in every moment, in every village. Corey told me, he said, Dad, be easy on people. I don't want this to be a money gathering meeting. He wants it to be about relationship. So if you walk out of here and nothing changes on how you're supporting Corey and Tannen, then that's fine with them. But I would just say that I know that people are looking to partner with people who are doing great things. And I would just encourage you guys just to pray about it. There are several ways you can give. You can go to website. You can go to the church website. There's several different ways that you can give into what they're doing. And so I'd encourage you guys to do that.